Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and in today's video we're going to be learning how to fix and repair a vintage $6 million man doll. Now, I have shown lots of repairs on the $6 million man, Steve Austin, over the years, and most of them are really simple to do, but there are a few repairs that I have never tried and lots of people ask me about them. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be taking apart some of these broken and busted $6 million man dolls and trying to work out how to repair some of the other issues that I have yet to show on the channel. One of those being the arm mechanism, which is the way you turn the head to the right, click a button on the back and the arm raises. That is often broken, or the button is often missing. The other thing that I'm asked a lot about is mending legs, because you see quite often the legs are broken, feet are missing, and other parts are basically damaged on them. So I thought I would try and work out repairs on these. And that is why this video is called Learn How to Repair, because I am going to be learning how to repair these things as I go along and go through this video. So let's get on with the project and see what we can do with these broken Steve Austins. So we're going to start with the broken arm mechanism, which is something I've never tried to fix before, because I generally find the bodies of these Steve Austin figures are pretty easy to find. As you can see, I've actually got 6 of them here, all in various states of disrepair, and normally one of them will have this arm mechanism working. In fact, this guy here, although he's a bit sun damaged, the raising arm mechanism works. There's a lever on the back, you turn his head all the way to the right, and then you press that button in, and that raises up his arm. That's sort of the bionic strength. And this is the bit that, as I say, is often broken. It seems there are a few different ways this breaks. This guy in the middle, I can actually see the button has snapped off, and I'm guessing what's happened there is this button is a separate piece that is pushed onto a little post, and it looks like it's pretty easy to snap the post off. I can just about see the remains of the post there. So the button actually works. If you push something into that, this does raise the arm. It's just the actual lever part has snapped off. So that would be very easy to fix. We could just make something out of styrene and glue that in place. So that would be a very simple fix. On this one here, you can see that the button has actually pushed inside. So it's snapped off, and then the remnants of it, which is that piece there, pushed inside, and you can hear it sort of shaking about. So for that one, we're going to have to split open the body. And again, that is something I've never done, and it'd be quite interesting to do it. So let's have a go at fixing one of these mechanisms. I think the first one to fix is this one, where it's just snapped off. I think that should be fairly straightforward to do. I'm just going to get some bits of styrene out and make a very crude replacement button and see if we can glue that in place and get that one working. If that all works, we'll then smash this one apart somehow and see if we can get inside and rebuild the mechanism. So yeah, let's get some styrene out and see if we can make something just to get this one working, see if that's a simple fix. So what we need to do first on this is actually make a replacement button, and I can just measure the one that's on this one here, and it looks to me like it's about 1 centimetre across by about 5 millimeters high, and we're going to have to make it, it's going to be, let's see how far that goes in. It goes in pretty far. So I think if we make it about 18 millimeters deep, then that should be about the sort of length we need. So I need a piece of plastic that is 5 millimeters thick. I don't have a piece of styrene that is that thick. What I have is a piece that is, I think this is 3 millimeters. So I will layer it up. I'll cut a sort of a length out of this, and then I've got some 1 millimeter styrene sheet that I can stick on it to make it up to the 5 millimeters. And I'm just going to crudely make a little button that sits on the back there. You can see on the original button we have a plate on the end which has got a sort of little cross-hatched finish to it. I don't think I'll do that, but I'll just make a plate that's about the same size as that. So we might as well measure that as well. And that is going to be, that looks like it's about 8 millimeters by about, that's about 14 millimeters. So it should be a fairly quick thing to make. So let's make a quick one of those, and then we'll test if that fits in. If it does, we'll then have to glue it in place. And hopefully that will just repair this one in a really sort of simple way without actually having to take the main part of Steve Austin apart. So yeah, let's get making the button, see what we can do. And here is my finished little button. It's really pretty simple, and I think it should work very nicely. So let's just slot that into the back of Steve, and we can see that that now presses in, and it is actually pushing the mechanism. The annoying thing is though that now I've actually made this button and I can test it properly, the mechanism on this one doesn't actually work. So when I turn this head around, I can see that it's not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually stick this onto another one that I've got, which is broken in exactly the same way, and this mechanism works. So if I push this in here, you can see this post actually turns when I press the button. So let's try and stick this on just using some plastic weld. What I'm going to do is put plastic weld on the end of this and try and get it all nice and melted. Then I'm going to drop some plastic weld onto the remnants of the button in there. But I don't want to get it onto the sort of the flesh toned plastic. I just want it on the button. And then I'm going to push these two pieces together, and I'm going to gently sort of push that in so it's held away from anything else, and I'll hold it there until the plastic weld has had time to set, and hopefully that will fuse it and we'll get a nice fix on there, and then this will all work. And this button, although it will be sort of delicate, it should still stay in place. Yeah, let's just give that a go. So there's a nice lot of plastic weld on there. Let's get this and see if I can drop some in there and just get that plastic so it starts to get a bit sort of sticky. You can actually see if it starts to work because the red of the plastic will end up on the brush, and I can see that that is working. Oops, I've just got a bit on the flesh there. Let's quickly wipe that off. Then we'll get a nice lot on there. This has a nice lot on it, so let's push that in. Just going to try and line it up a little bit more. I've moved it slightly out of the way. Put a little bit more plastic weld on. This is really sort of risky because I don't want to fuse everything together. I just want to fuse the two bits that I need together. A bit more plastic weld on there. Let's go for it. So I'll push that in really carefully. Now I'm just going to gently push that away so it's not touching any of the other plastic. And I'm going to hold that for a few minutes and try and let everything set. So that plastic weld has now had time to set, and it feels pretty firmly on. I reckon if you sort of twisted it a bit, you might be able to break it off. But for now, that is really sort of feeling firm, and it's working very nicely. If I turn his head to the right, we should see that arm move, which it does. So there you go. That's actually a fairly straightforward fix, just making a new lever out of styrene, but it does depend on how this is broken. As you saw on this one, that just doesn't appear to want to work. So I think we're going to have to take this one apart, which is actually something I've wanted to do anyway. I've never taken a Steve Austin doll apart, so that is going to be the next part of this sort of learning process. I've got one here which is really very broken and busted, so I'm really just going to take a knife to it and see if I can prise it apart. It looks like we'll have to take the pelvis off first, because I reckon that is squeezed around, is it? It's really hard to tell. Is the torso squeezed around this bit, or is this bit squeezed around that bit? Actually, looking at that, I reckon the torso is around this bit, so we're going to have to try and split along the edges here. So I've just got my knife. I'm going to put that in and see if I can sort of twist and see what happens. Hopefully it will split apart really neatly, and then we can try and work out how to fix that one and then make a replacement button for it as well. But I'm very pleased with how that's gone so far. That is a fairly straightforward fix and pretty easy to do. Okay, well that was not particularly easy to get into, but I have managed to get this apart. You can see I've caused a fair amount of damage down the side here. This one seemed particularly well glued together. This left-hand side of him came apart pretty easily. This one did have an awful lot of glue down it, and it was just proving very difficult to prise apart. But, you know, this is a learning process, so I don't mind damaging one of these, and they're already broken anyway. And once you're inside, it really is an interesting mechanism. There's so much going on, and you can see why these break. There's lots of gearing, there's lots of springs, and the way that this works is this is the button on the back, so you would press that in, and when the head is off to one side, this gearing here is shifted over to the left and it doesn't touch on another gear at the back there. If we twist the head round, let me just do that by holding everything in place, you can see that that gear is then moved over and locks onto the other gears, which then start moving this arm. So again, if I just hold this in place and press that, you can see it's all sort of ratcheted at the bottom, and that arm moves now. It's a very clever mechanism. It's incredible sort of design for something this old. But yeah, there are lots of places on this that can break. Obviously this button is the one that breaks the most, and I can see why a lot of these, the buttons have disappeared inside. Once that bit breaks off, this piece can then be moved upwards. There's nothing to stop this piece moving up, and once that's moved up, it falls off and will fall inside. That spring will fall away, and then there's nothing you can do to get to those pieces. They'll be just rattling around inside. So yeah, I can definitely see why this breaks and why it's such a sort of awkward mechanism. But we can actually put that back in. Now that we've got this apart, I can pop that back in and get it in place. So making a replacement button on that, this one would work. So I'm intrigued as to why this one doesn't work, because I can see there are lots of other places that might break. It could be that this sort of vertical post there with the gearing on it is broken, because normally when you twist the heads, you can feel the mechanism moving. On this one, when I twist the head, I can't really feel much at all, so it could be that that is broken. So I want to take another one of these apart to see if I can fix it, but I might try and take it apart in a different way. This one is already starting to split, so I'm thinking maybe just a gentle tap with a hammer. That does sometimes work. It can sometimes cause even more damage and break the plastic, but as I say, I've got a lot of broken ones of these, and this is all about learning how to take them apart. There are two different bodies as well. This is a second edition body of Steve Austin. If I just put that back on quickly so we can sort of turn him over, you can see that his left arm is removable. The early editions of Steve Austin, the left arm was fixed on, and it was a sort of a common thing that children would break this off, thinking that because you could remove the right arm, you should be able to remove the left arm. I think parents complained, which is why the sort of second release of him, you could remove both arms. So this one's going to be slightly more awkward to take apart just because we can't remove this arm. In fact, most of the ones I have here are these early edition ones where this arm isn't removable. So yeah, let's try and take this one apart. As I say, I might just give it a quick tap with a hammer and see what happens, because it might just split those seams. There are only a few posts inside holding this together. You can see we've got a post either side of the neck, then two on either side of the body, and then the rest I think is just lightly glued. So yeah, a hammer may work. It may cause more issues. We'll just give it a go.
toy-polloi. That is incorrect. Try again.
So as you can see, the hammer trick worked really well. This was the first one I did, and just some gentle taps down the side and it split apart really easily, and there's very few marks left on it. In fact, the marks that are left on there came from the paint that was on the block that I was using to sort of hit everything on. So that one came apart really easily. This one was a lot harder work, and you can see I ended up with some stress marks where I was sort of tapping it. I was using a metal hammer, so yeah, I think it works, but not reliably on each one. Everyone is going to be slightly different. So when I came to the third one, which was the one I really wanted to sort of test on and sort of get it apart neatly, I ended up using a rubber mallet. We've got a few little stress marks there, but overall I'm very happy with how that is looking. So yeah, the hammer trick does seem to work. Just be gentle, and I would suggest using a rubber mallet rather than a sort of metal hammer, and just sort of tap along the edges, and you'll hear it crack as you go. Every time you tap you hear a slight cracking, and they do start to split. So I've now got 3 of these all in pieces. So let's take them apart and I'll show you what's wrong with them, because I've actually worked out why this one doesn't work, the one that I was trying to fix to start with, and it's fairly sort of simple to repair it, but yeah, it's quite interesting. So let's take these apart and I'll show you the insides. So here are all those Steve Austins with the backs taken off. This was the first one I did, which was the most smashed up, and you can see what's happened with this is I reckon someone has put this in the bath because it has gone incredibly rusty. All of the springs have rusted and there's a lot of sort of water damage inside. So it probably can be fixed, but I'm not going to bother on that one. This was literally just my sort of test to how to open it. This one in the middle, the mechanism is in really nice condition. The only thing that's broken on this is the lever, which I've already shown you how to fix. Now, the one that I was trying to fix originally was this one, and there's one subtle difference between these two, and that's why this thing is broken. You can see here there's a little piece of plastic that is sticking out, and that piece of plastic is key. It stops this gear from swinging backwards. It rotates one way and one way only. On this one, that little piece has snapped off. So when you press the button and move that gear around, it moves around to the right, and then it can also move around to the left. And that means that the whole mechanism is stopped working just by that missing piece of plastic. I probably could replace that just gluing something in, but because I've got all of these open, what I'm going to do is just take the mechanism out of this one and swap it into that one. It may be that that is not a very common area to break, because I don't have any of the others with that piece broken on it, but it's just interesting to see why these mechanisms don't work. So let's swap these 2 mechanisms over, and I'm going to put this figure back together, and I reckon just a bit of plastic weld around the edge will fix that. And I've already made a lever, so once I've stuck this back together I can stick that little lever back on and he will all work again. It's been very interesting taking these figures apart. I have learnt a lot, and that's the whole point of this video, learning how to fix these toys. And here we have the top half of Steve all put back together. It actually went together really nicely. So just a little bit of plastic weld around the edges. There's a little bit of damage where I split it apart, but really it's very minimal. And by the time this guy is dressed up, you won't notice that that has been repaired. And the mechanism now all works. So if I turn his head to the right and I press the button a few times, you can see that the arm that I have stuck on there is now raising really rather nicely. So that top part of Steve Austin is now all back together, which is pretty sort of pleasing, because I wasn't expecting to get him looking so good from the parts and pieces that I had on my desk to start with. Now we need to move on to the legs. So I have one good right leg and a couple of busted left legs. So let's see if we can try and fix these up. I'm going to try the boil and pop method, which is something I use on Star Wars figures all the time, but I've never tried on these. So let's give it a go. So these are the two left legs that I have. As you can see, this one, basically the foot has come off. I think I actually got this leg in one job lot and I got a foot in another job lot. So I'm not quite sure how these are supposed to go together. It looks like the plastic on the feet though is going to go quite soft if you put it in just boiled water. So I'm hoping I could put that in the water, soften it up and then just pop that back on over this little ring, and that will put that leg back together. I've never tried it on this figure, so that's going to be the first thing I'm going to try just to see if it works. I have another left leg where that bottom ring has snapped, but I have another broken sort of ankle piece here, and I'm hoping maybe we can try and split this as well, the same way that I split the body. So give it a gentle tap with a hammer. It might be that I can split the calf section, or at least split the calf section on one of them, or maybe I could even get away with just splitting the thigh section. That I'm just going to have a play with. So again, that will be out into the garage and give it a little tap with a hammer and see what happens. But I think the first thing to do is to try the boil and pop method. So what you do, boil the kettle, drop the foot into it for 30 seconds to a minute, and hopefully by that time the plastic will have started to soften, and I can then sort of push this piece in using a pair of pliers just to sort of move things out the way, and we can get that foot back on. So I say I've never tried it, so let's just give it a go. Okay, as you can see, I've got that foot on. It's not the easiest of things to do. I thought this plastic would soften a lot more than it did. It does go a little bit soft, and you can sort of manhandle it with knives and screwdrivers just to sort of twist it apart. But I was trying to be quite careful pushing the circular piece in, because that's made of a fairly brittle plastic. I didn't want to sort of push it and snap it. So yeah, that took rather a long time. But as you can see, I do actually have that foot on. So I now have a leg for this Steve Austin. So that is pretty pleasing. I am though going to go out into the garage with these two broken pieces and just give them a tap and see what happens, because I'm interested to see if you can actually split these legs apart. So let's go and give those a quick tap and see if anything actually does happen. But if it doesn't, I still have a leg that I can put on this figure. So much like the body, hitting it with a hammer does cause it to split along the seam. Sometimes it doesn't split evenly, so this is the lower leg. It's a little bit rough around that side there, and certainly quite rough around that side. But on this one, I really just wanted the foot, so we can take that foot section out. On this other one, it's split really nicely, just a couple of taps, and the whole thing just fell apart. I have just pushed it back together, so I'm hoping I can get that apart again. Yeah, just like that. So now we can take out the broken foot section on this one, which is just that tiny piece there, and we can drop that foot back in. It's really rather simple. So yeah, that's a very pleasing little fix as well. It means I've now got another leg that I can put back on one of the other Steve Austins. So if I just drop that onto that, push those two pieces together, make sure everything is in place, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of plastic weld down the edge, and that leg is not looking too bad. There's a little bit of a stress line there, but it's good to have another fixed leg. So yeah, another thing that I've learnt, and another new thing that I can do if I'm ever needed to repair a $6 million man doll. And there we go, that is it for this project. I started off with a whole pile of broken Steve Austins, and I've actually ended up with two pretty reasonable looking ones. They are still sort of rough and ready, but I have learnt so much about how the mechanisms work inside them, and also how to repair them. And that's the whole point of doing a video like this. I'm trying to learn new techniques and new ways of fixing toys. And with Steve Austin, I had never fixed the arm mechanism. So now I know exactly how it works, and I know exactly how to fix it. I've also worked out how to split the legs apart. And as you can see, this figure on the right is actually a perfectly displayable figure. I still need to find a pair of shoes for him, but the overall effect of him is a very nice looking toy. So if you want to find out more about the $6 million man Steve Austin and how to repair him, do check out some of my previous videos. I've done loads of work on him over the years and also some of his other accessories, so there's lots to learn. Hopefully this video has been of interest to you. If it has, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to help me out here at toy-polloi, then why not think about becoming a Patreon of the channel. You get early access to all of my restoration videos, plus access to an exclusive video series called On the Cutting Mat, where I show projects and restorations that you won't see anywhere else. So have a think about that, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.